So where Andretti have failed, TWG Group have succeeded. Cadillac F1 turns up in Formula One. Here's what we think. So this looks like something that's been 2 years in the making. I think it was January 2023 that the FIA agreed, didn't they? That Andretti could be on the grid, and F1 then subsequently said no.
So they opened up the process of application in January 23. It was last summer that they, or no, the autumn. It was around this time last year where
I thought it was
Andretti
even
was
longer than
announced.
that. I thought it was January 22 they opened the tender, and then it was a year later
No,
that
no, no, no. So they opened the tender in January 23, and Andretti, High Tech, Lucky Sons, and Rodin were the ones to apply. And then only Andretti were given FIA approval. And then there's obviously been the wrangling with Formula One and Liberty, and Greg Maffei basically saying, "I'm not going to let you on." But now he's out the way. Andretti have kind of stepped back. It's all a bit messy, but looks like it's going to happen, which is great news. I'm so happy about this.
But is it slightly not bittersweet, but isn't it a bit weird? Like, what has suddenly changed? And let's be honest, we probably know what's changed. What are the factors here that have made it that Andretti and GM were not suitable and weren't going to add value to the team? I mean, to Formula One. And let's be honest, like Andretti is probably the biggest single motorsport entity in the United States. That doesn't add value, but GM Cadillac alongside TWG Group, which owns Andretti, that is a better prospect in terms of value added.
Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, yes,
Ooh,
purely because look, we're motorsport purists. We understand the history. We understand the legacy of the name Andretti. But to a wider audience watching the sport, tuning in to Drive to Survive, and watching, just tuning in on the weekends and not consuming it obsessively like we do, they'll just be like, we don't really know who these guys are, and you can explain it to them and everything else, but they wouldn't have the connection. Whereas American audiences will go, "Wait, Cadillac have got a team? Okay, I'm
hmm.
interested." Yeah, there's Haas on the grid, but they're like, yeah, Haas, yeah. Yeah, they've never really been like the red, white, and blue American team. Whereas I think Cadillac can capture that and be like, yeah, we are Team America. We're going to be based in America. We're going to be we've got the one of the most iconic car brands there, and I think Formula One. Look at the way they courted Audi, and they're like, "Oh, Audi brings value because it's Audi." If they want
Oh yeah.
manufacturer brand recognition, you know, Andretti and Cadillac, yeah, it's nice, but oh, Cadillac F1, that's got a different ring to it. It's like, oh, we've got a proper brand coming in here, and a team with some motorsport legacy, or a brand with, because obviously they've been racing in hypercars. So yeah, it's
But actually, I'd argue that they already had that. They had the best of both worlds when at the beginning of last year. Yeah.
I agree with you. Like I don't disagree, but I think Formula One were looking at it of, well, this is just Andretti trying to increase the Andretti brand, whereas Cadillac is Cadillac. People know that. Like people know what Cadillac is outside of racing. They know it as this, you know, great American car brand, and I think that's what Formula One were trying to get at. Now, yes, Michael Andretti was a major problem. Like Miami 22, I think
That was
sowed this.
embarrassing.
It was horrendous. And he basically pissed everybody off in the process. And I think that was a major reason why. Plus, he didn't want to play their game. He didn't want to be like, oh, I'm not going to pay your fees and everything else. Whereas I think Cadillac have kind of gone, yeah, okay, we'll play ball. We will play ball. If you want to increase things, let's do it. We understand. They've gone in with a slightly less hostile feeling towards them, and they've been a lot more collaborative. Uh, because I mean, look, Andretti went to the US Congress to try and get this sorted, and Michael was just like saying, "Oh no, these guys are mean, but we still want to be part of the big club." And it's like, well, you're not endearing yourself to them. Whereas you need to flatter them, butter them up. Whereas I think Cadillac have clearly done that by themselves, but or GM, sorry, have done that by themselves. But I think Andretti clearly just went about it completely the wrong way and never really grasped how to play that game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one because like if I was going to build a Formula One team, right, out of American bits, automotive bits, anyway. Like for me, Cadillac. When I think of Cadillac, I think of like 50s, like big cars or limousines and so. I don't think sports cars. And I know that in the IMSA, it's sort of changed now, isn't it? That Cadillac have a team. They're and they compete, and their brand exposure from a motorsport point of view is increasing. But for me, it's still not like it doesn't have the heritage that like the motorsport heritage that say um even Chevrolet or Dodge would have had, for example. I know Chevrolet is a GM brand, but it's not, you know, they've been building IndyCar engines for years now. So there's a heritage there in the
Yeah,
from the motorsport point of view, right?
that was the weird thing because when GM were coming in, we thought, oh, it'll be Chevrolet, and then they said, oh, it's Cadillac, and we're
It's
like, wait,
Cadillac,
wait,
yeah.
what? Like, but it's still great. I don't have a major issue with that. Like,
But if they're gonna if you're gonna take what is ostensibly a luxury car brand, right? Well, pair it up with a motorsport entity, and Andretti seemed to fit that bill. But clearly, Michael Andretti, um, one-time Formula One driver and one-time IndyCar champion, is clearly, and I don't know if it was just him and Greg Maffei that together just didn't fit, and having both of them out of the picture has suddenly created the window of opportunity, or whether all of the stuff that was happening at the Department of Justice has suddenly incentivized Formula One to make stuff happen. But clearly Formula One weren't comfortable with the Andretti name in their sport. Maybe it's just too associated
I,
with IndyCar. I don't
and I
know.
think also they want. I mean, I've said for ages that what Formula One want is 12 teams. That's their ideal number, I think.
Hmm.
12 teams with 12 individual car manufacturers or engine manufacturers involved in some capacity. So you've already got Mercedes, you've already got Honda, you've already got Ford coming in with Red Bull, you've got Ferrari, and then we're going to have Cadillac coming. Okay, we've lost Renault, but an Audi as well. I think I've already said them, but you've got a decent enough amount of engines there. But ideally, they'd want, Mercedes with one, McLaren could go and have Porsche, Williams could go and have Lamborghini, for example, like just throwing names out there. And ideally, you have 12 teams, 12 different engines to like see make it a proper battle of engineering. Like, I'm fairly certain at some point Toyota might say, let's do an engine project with Haas
I can see that happening.
and make Haas a works
Yeah, yeah,
Toyota team
yeah.
again. Whether they've learned from the mistakes of
Well,
the past,
hopefully
will
they have.
yeah, well, yeah. I have to be convinced. But yeah, I think that was F1's aim, and I think they felt Andretti kind of. It was almost like they were trying to barge their way in, saying, "Oh well, we've given you what you want with
Yeah.
GM," whereas they're like, "Well, we'll have GM because we like that prospect, but because we've got Ford coming in, so we can have an all-American fight off between Ford and Cadillac. But at the same time, you know, do we want another privateer team? I know they had Haas, but that was under the old management, whereas the new management are now very much brand, 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 and they want automotive brand, not racing brand."
Yeah, yeah, no, I take that point, but I can't get away from the feeling that this is much more about much less about what they're getting versus how they were getting it. Like there was just
Yeah,
F1 were just not happy with the process that Andretti were putting forward
yeah,
versus the way that this has been presented. It just feels ever so slightly petty. One thing that I do that I am going to be amused to see is how everybody, including some of the Formula One teams, are going to walk back some of the nonsense they were talking about in terms of
Toto's already done it,
get
mate.
garage space. Like, what the hell? What did
Toto's like, oh
Toto
yeah.
say?
Toto was like, oh, it's going to be great to have GM on the grid. Like, it's going to be it's just such a great brand recognition. And as I said, it's as simple as GM have decided to play by the rules. So now they're like, oh, you want to play by our rules? Roll out the red
Yeah,
carpet. In
yeah,
you
yeah,
come.
yeah.
Lovely. You want to bring your own engines in 2028 and use Ferrari engines for 2 years? Great. That's what we like to hear. it's all a bit, yeah, okay, now you've played by our rules, we'll be nice to you, but if you don't want to play by our rules, we'll be horrible. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see who's going to drive for them.
Yeah.
That's
Who have you got?
Colton Herta, because I think that link is still there. And I can see because Mario Andretti is going to be on the board of directors,
Yeah.
and I can see him going, look, just get Colton and let him do it, and that's like my one thing basically. The other one, and I think he's perfect. Not, I mean, look, he's not going to be the best driver, but I think from a business perspective, he'd be brilliant. Checo Perez.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
He takes a year out next year because I think he's going to get dropped from Red Bull.
Yeah,
Take a
yeah.
year out next year, and then he can go to basically from the ground up with the sponsorship that he would bring. Get go to Cadillac, and I think he'd be perfect for them. Even when it was Andretti, I thought Checo would be perfect for them.
Okay, so we're not going to bring Logan Sargent back into the fold, clearly. Poor
No,
Logan.
no,
Poor Logan.
no.
Although how different Colton Herta is going to be in a Formula One car, I don't know, especially in a car that they're going to struggle to get that car properly competitive by 2026.
They'll probably look to 28, I suspect.
Yeah,
Kind
before
of
yeah,
2 years of mm,
although they are recruiting. Pat Simmons was a good
big signing.
recruitment.
Yeah,
Yeah, although he's a good signing when you're trying to get yourself on the grid. Is he
yeah.
still going to be a good signing when you actually need to have
Who
up to date
knows?
technical nous? I don't know. I hope so. I hope so.
And they've just signed the guy from Renault, haven't they?
Yeah, Rob White, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My thing about the drivers is, yeah, I think a new team could definitely be a good home for any of the second drivers from 2021, i.e., Checo Perez or Valtteri Bottas. Either of those two drivers would fit in fairly well. No, you're not a fan of Valtteri?
I love Valtteri, but I think he's done. I think because he
More
doesn't
so than
bring
Checo Perez.
Checo has the money. That's the big thing. Like Checo has the money, and that will always open doors for him. Whereas I don't think Valtteri has that same level of cash available to him.
No, no,
Um,
which is a
yeah, I mean,
shame.
if they don't want to go Checo Perez, and I think another driver who could generate a lot of sponsorship should he choose to make the jump from IndyCar is Pato
Pato
O'Ward.
Award. Yeah, yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that.
like a big fan of his. I think he's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
And he could be a really good signing for them as well. And I know he wants to make the F1 jump. He's done FP1s and tests for McLaren. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I think that would be interesting. So many questions, so many questions.
so much detail
Finally,
still.
yeah, I think we did a video on Andretti being rejected back in March, and it's great to see them, well, not Andretti
Mm.
on the grid for 2026. As usual, let us know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment. We'll read every single one, and we'll respond to as many as we possibly can. And we will see you guys in the next one.